Hi, everybody. My name is Mary Sotomayor. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the Leadership Development Coordinator for New York State. I am very, very happy and pleased to introduce Jackie Wilson, our Leadership Training Specialist. But before we get started tonight, I wanted to give you the inside scoop on a really, really exciting news that we have. Our Leadership Development Training Award that we're starting to publicize tonight. The only thing that you need to do is attend the webinar. So you guys have already done step one. And you're going to be given a special question. You want to make sure that you hear the question when it comes out and just make sure to answer it when we ask you and prompt you in the days coming. So just pay attention. We'll let you know when you have to write anything down, and you'll know when our special question is coming up. It's going to be very exciting, and it's the way that you'll be able to qualify for our leadership award. So thank you again. So happy that you're here on our webinar. Jackie, go ahead, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Mary, and thanks for that exciting news. Tonight's topic is Let's Talk SEPTA. Our presenter this evening is Tina Scheck, and she is currently the New York State PTA SEPTA specialist. And her other duties include being an associate director for Suffolk Region and a longtime member of the Half Hollow Hills PTAs. She was instrumental in starting the SEPTA in that district and has served in many capacities on the SEPTA, as well as council, where she did serve as council president. So Tina has a great deal of information to offer us tonight. Tina, I'll let you start.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Mary. I'm excited about the award, so I can't wait to participate too. So good evening, everybody. My name is Tina Scheck. As Jackie mentioned, I am the New York State Special Education Specialist. I wanted to share with all of you that I am a mother of 3 special needs children. My oldest has a medical special need. My middle child is an anxiety, OCD, Asperger's child, and my youngest is on the autism spectrum with dyslexia and dysgraphia. So I have run the gambit of all the special needs that are out there. So I understand where we are all coming from. I was also part of the process of chartering a SEPTA in my own school district. So I know the struggles, and I understand sometimes the frustrations that come with being a part of a SEPTA. So I'm hoping tonight we could alleviate some of those concerns and give you some ideas that will help you engage their families and community members in your district, and also the staff and the teachers. So, let's get started. So one of the basic questions is, why SEPTA? SEPTAs help provide a stronger partnership between parents, families, teachers, and students. SEPTA can address concerns and provide support that is specific to the special needs community. SEPTA can provide information that can help provide resources to special needs families. SEPTA can provide an opportunity to speak with others that may be in a similar circumstances that can offer support. And SEPTAs can provide opportunities not only for families, but for the students to engage with others. So what does all this mean? So when I used to go to a PTA meeting before we had a SEPTA in my school district, I had concerns about, my child not reading at the similar reading level as his peers, or, I was concerned about, will he be able to speak, because he was nonverbal. So, and I felt a little bit isolated, because when I went to the PTA meetings, everybody was talking about, honors classes or, the book fair, and I had different concerns and needs. And that's why a SEPTA was something that I was looking for. And I said, oh, wow, this is a great support to have available, because you have like-minded families that are part of that conversation to say, and to offer that support. And SEPTA is also, vital in providing that information, when we bring in guest speakers, when we offer resources, and we are a strong advocate. So we advocate, not only at your school district level, but even at the state level. New York State PTA has been instrumental in, alternative pathways to graduation, and, extending during COVID, additional a year of providing services for students that were aging out. So, SEPTAs are involved in so many different levels and can provide that support that a lot of our families need. But what can my SEPTA do to gauge our community? First of all, we need to educate the community on what SEPTA is and does. A lot of people don't know what a SEPTA is. They don't even know what it stands for. We need to educate them and let them know that this is also an additional PTA that they can join. Sometimes people feel or misunderstand and say, oh, I have to join one PTA and I can only join one PTA. And that is not the case. We should encourage everybody to join PTA. They're building PTA and SEPTA. And SEPTA is not just for special needs families. We want to be inclusive. We want to engage all our communities and our families to be part of that conversation. You want to promote SEPTA, use social media, flyers, word of mouth, make sure that you're putting it out there. Make sure that you're saying, if you have a guest speaker, publicize the guest speaker. Make sure that it's known that everybody's welcome at your meetings. Participate in person events such as your local parades, school fairs, sporting events, libraries. Set up a table at the soccer game, or if there's a challenger league or a unified league in your district, set up a table, give out that information, reach out. Same thing with your local library is a great resource to reach out to them and say, can we partner on a program? And it's something that benefits both the library and yourself. Collaborate with other PTAs in your district, attend their meetings and invite them to yours. Remind everyone again that you can join more than one SEPTA. Ask the PTA presidents of the units that we have 5 minutes to just give a summary of what's going on with SEPTA, what SEPTA is doing, when our next meeting is, or to promote, what SEPTA is. Meet with your school district personnel, invite them to your events, ask for their support, ask them to join SEPTA. We should be having an open conversation and, engagement with your district personnel. It shouldn't be sometimes, as special needs parents, we hear, oh, I'm always fighting my school district. And that's not what this should be. This should be a partnership where we're collaborating together, working together, and coming up with new ideas that we could work together. So, that's also very important. Letters for new CPSC and CSE families. Remember, you have a lot of preschool families that are going to join your district and are going to need a lot of guidance and support. Make sure, ask your district pupil personnel, director, if you can include a letter about what SEPTA is, when SEPTA is, what meetings you have coming up. And also don't forget to engage families that have students in out of district placements. I will use myself as an example. My son is, still part of this district, but he attends a BOCES program. And I have to tell you, it was eye-opening for us because I realized there was no engagement. I didn't know anything that was going on. The BOCES program was too small. He basically has only 2 other kids in his class, so it doesn't have a PT unit of its own, but I still wanted to be part of the SEPTA of my district. So I reached out and I said, hey guys, you know what? I stopped getting emails from the district. What's going on? And, we didn't realize that there was a base of families that we can engage with. So, don't forget about your out of district placement, families. Explain the advocacy efforts that SEPTA has been a part of. For our district, and again, I'm using myself as an example, we advocated and we asked for a roundtable every 2 months to meet with the superintendent to discuss issues that special needs parents have. So we sit down with, a couple of parents and we kind of discuss what's going on. And it's something we advocated for 2 years to say, hey, can we have a sit down with you so you understand, some of the concerns that the special needs families are having. And you know what? It's been a very eye-opening discussion where the superintendent actually turned around and said, you know what, I didn't realize that some of these challenges that you were facing. So it was great to hear that. It was a great conversation. And that's something, you could advocate for. Encourage community partnerships. And this is something that's great for SEPTAs because, a lot of us are looking for volunteer opportunities for our students, and our students should be involved in volunteer opportunities or, job placement opportunities, or making those connections where, you could do visits, they could come and do classes. So, engage your community and make that a partnership. Most important thing is ask for feedback from your membership. It's not a dictatorship. Ask from your membership, what do they want to hear? What do they want to learn? What do they want to know? Engage and ask. Sometimes, one of the feedbacks we got in the initial years of our SEPTA, and it's something that I learned and I always share with a lot of SEPTA people, is that, we have to realize that there's so many different special need categories out there that sometimes we become too focused on one category. One of the feedbacks I got from, when I was on the SEPTA board in my district was that we were too autism focused, that there are so many other disabilities out there, and they felt isolated and they felt like we were just focusing on autism. And you know what? They were right. So we started to pick topics that were more generalized, executive functioning, time management. And then we did focus on the different disabilities that were out there. One month could be autism, one could, dyslexia, Down syndrome. You know, we didn't realize that we were lacking in that area until we asked the question from our membership: what do you need from us? What do you want to see? And we were able to get that information. Bring in speakers or workshop that your memberships may be interested in. So that's what we were talking about just previously. I just mentioned, make sure you bring in speakers for your workshop, and make sure that it's somebody that's going to interest not only your membership, but general ed parents could also be interested in that conversation, because I know a lot of students that have executive functioning issues. And you know what, especially after COVID, they didn't learn how to organize and time management or how to get things done. By engaging and mentioning at, let's say you go to a PTA meeting and mention your upcoming meeting, it's something you can mention. Hey, we're having a speaker on executive functioning. And then you know what? Somebody's going to turn around and say, what does that mean? What is executive functioning? Explain it to them. Be very open, explain things to them. And then you know what? You're going to get a lot of new parents there. I remember when we did our first executive function, when we described that it's about how to manage their time, how to get things in order, how to come up with a structure of how to execute, what they're doing. We had a lot of parents show up and say, hey, that sounds like my child. So you know what? This is another great opportunity. Make documents and materials accessible. We are a SEPTA. If you have somebody that's visually impaired that needs large print, we should do that. If you need a sign language interpreter for meetings, that you should do that. We last year somebody reached out to us here in New York State to ask, where can we find a sign language interpreter? We need one. And we were able to connect them with a local university that had a sign language course, and they had students that needed hours to practice. So we were able to make that connection. So it's something that we should always be open to make our meetings accessible to everybody. Newsletters, inform and keep your members up to date. Don't, especially special needs parents, we don't want things surprised on us. We need that time. We need to schedule things. And sometimes we might not be able to log on to a meeting like this or attend a meeting in person, but let's share that information. Let's share with them the opportunities that are coming up, the meetings that are coming up, the speakers that are coming up, whatever events we have coming up. So have that all listed and able to be distributed to your members. Look to have events that help support the students and families. Examples are like sensory friendly meals. I tend to hear that from a lot of families that they can't go out to eat. They feel like sometimes people are staring, or sometimes, their child won't sit. There's sensory friendly meals that you plan. I know I recommended to a couple SEPTAs, and they wrote back to me that it's been very popular. They've done sensory photo days around the holidays, which could also be a fundraiser if you needed to do that. And I'm hearing a lot of good things from that. Movie nights, a lot of the local cinemas, you could book out a movie theater with a minimum of 20 people. So, and you could turn up the lights, make the sound a little bit lower, and you can work with your theaters. Sporting events, story times, buddy programs. These are all things that, students and families can benefit from, and might need to be tailored more towards what our special needs community needs. Please don't forget that your gifted and talented students fall under the purview of SEPTA, because they are also, a special population. So don't forget that that's also a group of families and students you could reach out to. I mentioned before, set up a roundtable with your superintendent or people personal coordinator. It's a great way to have a conversation so that they understand, what your needs are. Well, and when I say your needs, what your membership's needs are and what your unit's needs are. It's a great way to also bridge that, that partnership. So they know that, what, this isn't a hostile environment. We're working together. We want to work together. We want to be able to do things together. Set up safety events and transitional events. This is something that is very big. One of the things that I love to do is set up a child ID card with our local police department to come and take pictures of our children, because some of them tend to elope or some of them are nonverbal. So at least they have picture ID identification cards. Transitional events are also sometimes, a lot of areas don't have those transitional events. We might have resource fairs, but we don't have transitional events where, a lot of our kids are either graduating and might not be going on to a secondary education, or they might be aging out and they don't know what the next steps are. So sometimes transitional events aren't available, and it's something that SEPTA could look at to do. Another way to engage is to engage our SEPTA students. First, as I said before, ask the students what they want to see, what they want to do. Hold holiday events, sensory friendly programs. Our district does a special needs prom because of a lot of our students. It was overwhelming for them to go to prom, but they still wanted that opportunity to dress up. So they have their own prom, which is phenomenal. The community gets involved, and they walk the red carpet. It's absolutely beautiful when they're all dressed up. And it goes for the same. We did for our younger students. We did a New Year's countdown, but we did it at noon. We did it during the winter break. We had them come in and we counted down to 12 o'clock noon, and the kids loved it. They threw confetti in the air. I don't think the custodians were very happy with us, but we definitely had confetti up in the air, and we had some great pictures. The kids were dancing. It was a wonderful time for all of us. But those are some of maybe the sensory friendly events that you could do. Again, we mentioned community partnership programs. If there's a job coaching or job placement where you could set up internships or set up volunteer opportunities, that would be great. A lot of our SEPTAs have scholarships for students that are going into transitional programs or vocational programs, to help support their needs. Social skills or after school programs. There could be social skills programs set up. We've done series of social skills classes. We use the library because the library doesn't charge you any fees to use the space because you're part of the community. And we set up social programs there. One of our most popular one was we had a video gaming one, and believe it or not, we had so many kids involved in that. We actually had to open up 2 more additional classes because the kids absolutely loved it. And we were able to gear it where they're having conversations with each other and working together on those video games. I know sometimes some parents will say, oh, you're sticking them in front of another screen, but that wasn't the case here. They were actually talking to each other and partnering, and I forgot it. I think it was like bricks or Roblox or something like that. And they were building something and they were working together and having that conversation. So that was great to see. Peer-to-peer programs are great. In-school programs, be inclusive of students. Sometimes, a lot of our schools and units have these holiday shops and they could be overwhelming. It might be nice to have a conversation with your building unit that's running this holiday shop and say, hey, could we have a sensory sensitive, shopping hour, either at the, I would recommend the beginning of the day, because sometimes when, you have it at the end of the day, everything's sold out. And sometimes our kids are disappointed and it's harder for them to understand that disappointment. So, maybe do it in the beginning of the day. Offer support groups. Don't forget the siblings. Siblings have a tough time, and sometimes they need also some kind of support system in place. And sometimes these sibling support groups are a great thing as well. I mentioned the transition programs. And one of the biggest things I like to mention is volunteer opportunities. Our kids, should be given the opportunity to volunteer. And even if we have to be with them, next to them, guiding them through that volunteer opportunity, our students need to learn how to give back to their community, how to be a part of the community, being a positive influence. So, it's not about, earning service hours for something. It's about that opportunity to work and to be a part, a positive part of society. So we want to give our kids that opportunity. So some of the volunteer opportunities that I've given, to SEPTA kids in the past is, they came with me, and, when we were having a younger program for, like, let's say with kids with the yoga program, we'd have them come help set up the mats, come help, work with the kids, engage them. Sometimes they come to our Unity Fair and help set up the arts and craft tables or manage that. And one time we did a beach cleanup many years ago, where we walked, every parent had, was with their child. We're able to clean up the local beach and park. So these are all things that we should be doing to help not only engage our families, but our students as well. So how can New York State PTA support you? Well, if you're in the process of thinking about starting a SEPTA, we could definitely help guide you on when you need to start that SEPTA. We have a great special education toolkit on our New York State PTA website. We can help you with social media posts or flyers that you can share. We have an amazing team at the New York State PTA office that have graphics and infographics available that we could share with you as well. We also have a translation service if you need to send out your flyers in another language. Resource to organizations to reach out to speakers or additional information. We could give you suggestions. We could help with trainings of your SEPTA board members. You know, a lot of us come into, you know, PTA without knowing anything. So we could definitely help you with training. And just support and guidance. Sometimes we just need an ear or a sounding board to talk to, and we're here. You know, we don't ever want you to feel like we're leaving you and, you know, you guys have to figure it out on your own. That is not the case. We are here, and it's a great family, and we work together, and we're there for each other. And advocating for our community. You know, if there's an issue that you think that New York State, that PTA should look at, we'll definitely, you know, look at it. Let's have a conversation, and we could talk about it.
Tina, can I just interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
I just wanted to remind everyone to please put your questions in the chat box so that when we're finished with the presentation, we can then ask Tina to help you out with those questions. So type what you need to ask Tina in the chat box, and then she'll be answering them at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. So where can I find my speakers? Let's start off with, you know, I'm a big proponent that we shouldn't be paying any speakers, you know, because there's so much a wealth of information and so many resources out there. One of the biggest resources that people tend to overlook is look within your school district. You know, within your school district, you have school psychologists, you have an assistive technology evaluator, you have, you know, possibly, you know, a reading specialist, you know, a speech, PT, OT. These are all people that could come talk at your SEPTA's meetings to talk about what district programs that are available, how that evaluation process happens. You know, community organizations such as Parent to Parent, OPWDD, Autism Speaks, National Down Syndrome Association, children and adults with attention deficit disorders. These are just basic few that would come in and have a conversation. And some of them are great. You know, Parent to Parent does a great workshop where they help families put their IEP or their 504 binders, help them organize them, tell them what documentation they should hold on to and what should be readily available at your fingertips and ready to go. And they also sometimes provide free binders. So that's always a plus. Look at your local library. Your local library, I know most libraries these days have, you know, separate programmings, sensory hours, special need classes. So ask your local library to come and speak also about what programs are available. Look at your local clubs, you know, athletic and social. You know, we have a lot of challenger leagues. We have unified, you know, Section 11 now has a unified league for our special needs students. So have them come and talk about those programs. And also ask PTA. We have a lot of people here that are available to speak, you know, to talk about everything from resolutions that if you want to talk about, you know, advocating for a certain something specific, or, you know, about training about what SEPTA is, because we also want to foster our officers. You know, you want to make sure that there are other people to help build SEPTA, make it better, bigger. Elected officials, but, you know, I'm going to caveat this, but we don't want them talking about politics or campaigns, but speak of local legislation that might be helping our community. You know, we want to make sure that. And another thing I want to, you know, caveat all this is, please make sure you vet your speakers and presenters. You know, it's not somebody you should just be pulling out of a directory or on Google, you know, and they shouldn't be sales pitches. They're there to provide information, not to promote themselves or promote their businesses. We want to make sure that they're providing information and giving that information to our community. So I've shared this graphic before in some of my other workshops and my other presentations, and it's been really popular, and a lot of people ask about it. So I thought I'd share it here today again. You know, these are activities or ideas your SEPTA can hold or participate in. Again, we mentioned a resource fair, but again, I'm going to caveat that with don't forget about transition fairs. Quiet rooms at large school events. This has been something that's very popular that helped us promote our SEPTA and made people aware that there was a SEPTA in our district. You know, we have a Halloween, or I think some people call it Freaky Friday or Fall Harvest. And it's a big event at some of our schools, but it's overwhelming for some of our students. So what SEPTA did is we provided a quiet room, a sensory room, where, you know, there were quieter activities where students could come into the room and just have a minute, you know, take a couple minutes for themselves and be able to recharge and get back out there. Funny story is that it became more popular than the actual dance in the event. It became so popular. We had more kids in the quiet room than outside at the main event. So that tells you that we all need just a couple minutes of downtime, and it could be overwhelming when you have a couple hundred kids running around. Parent support group. This is really important. One of the things I hear constantly when people are reaching out is that they feel alone, and they feel like they have nowhere to go and nobody to talk to. And that's why parent support groups are really important. It should be a place where it's non-judgmental. People feel safe to talk with. And that's the camaraderie that you get, especially in a SEPTA, because we're more intimate and we're talking more openly and freely about our children's special needs. Student programs or support groups are great. SIB support groups we mentioned before. Speakers at your SEPTA meetings that address parent guardian concerns. Advocate for your students to be included or considered during school events. Sometimes, and it's not intentional, people tend to forget that sometimes we need to take into consideration, our SEPTA kids. One example is, I think in one of our buildings, they were constantly bringing in these couple of local mascots, and for some of our kids, it was overwhelming, very scary for them. And, we asked the PTA president at the time, can you just give the teacher and the parents a heads up so they know, so the kids are prepared, or they're not going to be part of that particular arts and education program. And you know what, it never occurred to her to mention, oh, there's going to be a character dressed up at this particular arts and ed program. And it was a simple ask, and she was more than happy to do it, and the families appreciated that. So we just have to ask the question, and just have a discussion about it. A resource guide is a great thing as well. Putting resources of what is going on in your local town or your local county, and have that available for parents, because sometimes they might not know that there's a sensory friendly yoga class, or there might be a special adaptive swim program. So you could start putting those resources together and sharing that with your membership. Specialized geared events towards our special needs students. This is something else a lot of people don't know about. SRP Day is the third Tuesday of November, which is actually coming up. New York State, I believe, I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago, recognizes Service-Related Professional Day. And this is a day to recognize our school personnel that are paraprofessionals, monitors, bus drivers, anybody that supports the school. And, we, on that day, what we did was we sent out, how much we appreciate you. I'm into the very corny slogan. So we said, we think you're terrific. And we sent out iced tea bottles. And then what we also did with that was we put a SEPTA flyer on it and say, we would love for our paraprofessionals, our monitors, our school support staff to be a part of SEPTA. And we appreciate you. And we would love if you came and became part of SEPTA. And I have to tell you, the next day, we had about over 100 paras join and monitors, because they appreciated that we knew that they were part of our children's lives, and we know that they're a huge part of our children's lives, and they felt appreciated, and they said nobody ever asked us. So the fact that we asked was another plus. So SRP Day, it's coming up. If you want to use that, it's a great launching pad to have that conversation with your parents and your monitors. Scholarship and awards aimed for the special needs community. Best Buddies program, and again, volunteer opportunities for students. So before I go into, before I wrap it up, I think Mary had a question, or did I put Mary on the spot on that one?
Hi, Tina.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Please do. I say a lot to a lot of the SEPTAs, ask me, I'll join your SEPTA. I'll join any SEPTA. So please reach out. No, but definitely do. And that's also a myth out there that we need to dispel. A lot of people, when I walk up to them and say, are you part of SEPTA? They look at me like, well, I already joined my building's PTA. I was like, you could join both. You could join 3 or 4 if you want. So please, definitely join it all. We want your membership. We want you to be part of SEPTA and your unit PTA. So please do. Again, here is my email address if anybody wants to reach out. Please don't forget to join us at the New York State PTA Convention from November 10th to the 12th at the Desmond Hotel. I would love to see some of you in person. We also have one special education workshop going on there as well, but we hope you could join us.
Thank you, Tina. You want to take your PowerPoint down? So stop sharing your screen. Yep. And we'll get to some questions.
Absolutely. As soon as I figure out how to stop sharing. You gotta love modern technology.
Right,
There you
okay.
go.
Okay, so we have a number of questions in the chat. I have a couple before we go through the chat though as well.
Okay.
When you started your SEPTA in Half Hollow Hills, I know that's your district, did you get a lot of pushback from parents saying, why do we need this and so on?
Yeah, actually, we really did. I have to tell you, we got pushback from parents. We got, actually, believe it or not, pushback from other PTAs. We got pushback from the district. And the reason was, people were afraid. They were afraid of something that they've never done before, which they shouldn't be. It was, and the PTA, the other units were afraid that, we were competing for their membership. The district was afraid that we're going to give information, that will stir the pot. But that's not what this is. Again, stressing the partnership between, parents, the district and other PTAs. It should be open conversation. One of the other things is that a lot of special needs parents also push back. They said, you know what, how is this going to be inclusive when we have our own PTA? And my answer to them is, you know what, we don't have a seat at the table to have the conversation yet, to express what our concerns are. So I hope one day that we are all included in that conversation. We automatically take it into consideration. But until we have a full seat at that table, we need a SEPTA. We need that separate, support system in place.
And how would you go about chartering a SEPTA? Give us some kind of step-by-steps, if you would.
Oh, well, the first thing is, what, first I would have a conversation, not only with other parents to see if there is a foundation and a base for a SEPTA, but also have a conversation with your district that, about doing this SEPTA, because again, it's a partnership to work together. And then come reach out to us at New York State PTA, and we will definitely have that conversation with you and give you the step-by-step steps on how to charter SEPTA. In the beginning, it's we need to have a pre-charter meeting, finding 25 members to be part of that charter meeting, and then we get you up and running by appointing a nominating committee, a bylaws committee, and we will definitely help you get you up and running.
How should I'm sorry, Mary, go ahead.
So we have a question. Sorry about that. So we have a question here from Heather Hendershot. What is the best practice in facilitating a parent support group?
So it's a question that you have to look at your membership and kind of have that question. So when we did a support group, we picked an offsite, because we wanted to also be kind of relaxing, because you know what, if we're having this discussion, and we usually did it in person because a lot of our parents just needed a couple minutes away. We just needed a couple minutes with other grown-ups. So we had it at a local pizzeria. They were very gracious. They gave us their entire back room, no charge, gave everybody their separate checks. They didn't mind splitting 30 different checks with everybody else. And we just sat there and we had a discussion. And you know what? We said everybody was welcome, but we noticed that, it was only parents that showed up. Remember, in our particular SEPTA, we had a large amount of teachers, district personnel that were involved, and parents and grandparents. But the people that showed up were the parents to have a discussion. And it felt, it was a little bit more freer to have that discussion, but we never closed the door to anybody. Everybody was more than welcome to attend, but it tends to be more free flowing with just the parents involved. So it really depends. You have to see how your SEPTA is made up. Is it just one or two parents? Is it mostly district personnel? Because I know we have some BOCES SEPTAs that are mostly made up of the teachers and the staff. So it really depends on the makeup of your PTA.
She also wanted to know if there's a way to support each other and avoid the sessions turning into negative talk about the district. Do you have pointers there?
No, that is a very fine line sometimes, especially in the special needs community. Whenever I ran one of my SEPTA meetings, point blank, we say this is a room for respect. We respect each other. We respect each other's thoughts. We are not going to attack. And especially as a SEPTA, if you are a SEPTA leader, that is something you should put an automatic stop to, because that's not the point of having a PT or having a SEPTA. It's about having that collaboration, working together to advocate for the good of not only our children, but our community. And if you have that animosity and that hostility, we're not going to get anywhere. That defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here. So as a SEPTA leader, you definitely have to put a break on that. Believe me, there are times that you get frustrated, and I understand that. Believe me, I will share with all of you my own example. where I thought my son was going to graduate. I had my other two, they graduated through this district. They did the special needs program here, and I was so thrilled with it. But it just did not work for my youngest. And when I had to pull him out of district and put him into a BOCES program, I was heartbroken. I was angry. I was like, why couldn't you make this work for my younger son? But I also had to remember, you know what? We worked together and we decided that this was the best course of action for him. And you know what? I have to understand that. And that, by being angry, it's not going to help anything. We want to work together with everybody. So it shouldn't, you as a SEPTA leader, if anybody starts attacking or bad mouthing the district, that is not what our meetings are supposed to be about. Definitely put a halt to that.
How do you think social media can be used to promote SEPTA?
Oh, oh my gosh. I have to tell you, our social media platform was amazing. The first person that initiated our social media, my children now say Facebook is the old people social media. When Facebook first started, I didn't understand the concept at all, but we had a young parent that made it work. She plastered things on our thing like 4 or 5 times a day, facts about, facts that we might want to know, facts about SEPTA, facts about our next meeting, who our next presenter was. It was unbelievable. I mean, she blitzed the heck out of what SEPTA was, to the point that I didn't want to see it anymore. By sharing that information, and we also started having people reach out to us with resources. Parent to parent asked, we have a support meeting coming up. Can you post this? And we did. And once we saw that people were asking for, they are thirsty for that information. When we had those resources available and we were putting it up there, people wanted to know more. So you could use social media to your advantage. Again, I caveat that with that saying, be careful with what you share. You don't want to start sharing things that you aren't familiar with, or you haven't vetted, or you have taken a look at what it is. So, caveat that with, be cautious on that front.
Does PTA offer translation services in person or virtually for meetings and speakers?
So on that one, what I would recommend for all of you that need a translator for your services, like I had mentioned about before about a sign language, we had somebody reach out and ask us, where do we find a sign language interpreter? I would start and we just implemented this at our SEPTA this year, actually, because somebody had reached out to us about, how we have, ENL population that want to be a part of the meetings. How do we get them a part of the meetings? So what we did was we actually reached out within our own membership and asked, does anybody speak Farsi? Does anybody speak, Hindi? And we had a couple of parents volunteer. We actually now made that a separate position, as part of one of our chairmanships, where, diversity and, translations. And it's been great because they now met other parents in their community to offer, to get to know and ask questions. So, we made a connection. And I think that's the best way to do it, to reach out within your own membership to see if you have somebody that's willing to translate the forms, to sit with them, and also at the meetings and to help guide them.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Peer to peer is sometimes always the best way to do it. I think you might have touched upon this a little. What is the best practice on collaborating between district administration and SEPTA? Do you advise monthly meetings?
Well, when I was SEPTA president, or even now, we tend to meet with the pupil personnel director like once a month. Sometimes it would be once every 2 months, depending on what's going on. Is there a certain topic that came up that is a hot button issue? But we did have regular check-ins. Sometimes it'd be an email saying, "Hey, I just want you to know at the next meeting we're gonna have this particular speaker. Do you have any input, or do you need?" And at each of our meetings, they also gave us a summary of what's going on in the district. Anything new going on. If there was a personnel change, there's an additional 1511 that was added. There were, we enjoyed those updates because we were hearing what was going on, but it was more focused on what was pertinent to our population. So, give them that opportunity and chance, and definitely have those conversations with your, district staff.
And what about promoting a healthy relationship between SEPTA when maybe you've had a little difficulty along the way, people being a little bit suspicious of what the purpose is and things like that?
We definitely have to, we all have to have a little grace. We also all have to have a little bit of understanding. I truly don't believe anybody that, it is in a teaching role is ever out to get our kids, or are out to intentionally harm them. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't, sometimes people aren't aware. But if you go into that SEPTA leadership role, you have to kind of understand that, you know what, I need to be open-minded about this. I can't be hostile. Because I'm also setting that example. So I need to have an open collaboration. And again, I'll use myself as an example with my oldest child. I'm not going to mention how old I am, but I'm pretty old. So we go back a couple of decades. Homeschooling was still being worked on. It wasn't a perfected science back then. And I will share with all of you, my son had gone through chemo, so he was home for a very long period of time. And back then, they didn't understand how to make it work to have a teacher come. So I had a reading specialist teaching him algebra who had no idea how to do algebra. And I'm looking at the district like I'm frustrated, like I need a math teacher in here. But even though I had those frustrations, knowing that I was a SEPTA leader, I still had to do it in a respectful manner, but also know that that's my issue. And I have to put that aside and I have to think of the greater good for my SEPTA, and I'm representing the community in that area. So we want to make sure you understand that, your issues are your issues and you need to put that aside. But when you agree to step into a leadership role and be in a SEPTA, you're advocating for your entire community, not just yourself.
Mary, you have anything else?
No, I don't have any questions. Just Tina, you're amazing. Listening to this.
I do have a few more questions, Tina. So don't go away. A few more questions. Who should be part of the regular meetings with the special education department and the SEPTA? Should it be the administrators, SEPTA president, vice president? What would you suggest as a kind of liaison meeting there?
Well, you know what? That depends. That depends on you and your executive committee, and that should be a discussion you have with your executive committee. I also am a strong believer when you have too many people involved in a conversation, it becomes a huge meeting instead of an intimate discussion on things coming up. The way we did it was the SEPTA president and the VP met with, because you don't want to be also the only person in the room. So the two of us would meet with the pupil personnel director. And you know what? She didn't bring in her whole team. Remember, she had in our district, she has a team of 5 additional coordinators that work with her for preschool, elementary, secondary. They weren't part of the conversation. It was her, and then it was us, the two of us. And then we would have a discussion. We would meet every month, or we would shoot each other an email. But again, that's what what you would be comfortable with. But, I personally don't think you should be charging into a room with like 10 of your board members and you have one district director there. I don't think that makes it very conducive or intimate. So, but that's just my opinion.
And do you have any kind of suggestions for Halloween in terms of, working with SEPTA parents and SEPTA students? It was a tough day for those kids, I imagine.
No, absolutely. So what we did was, we've done a couple of different, I mentioned the quiet room. So we have 5 elementaries in our district. So each one does their own Freaky Friday, Fall Harvest, whatever they're calling it. And we provide a sensory friendly room in each one of them. So, it's a quiet room where we have Play-Doh, we have puzzles, we have coloring sheets, we had our own sets of toys and props or whatever, we had a sensory beanbag there available. And it was a quiet room and people understood when you're coming into this room. We also limited it to like 20 people at a time so that it wasn't overwhelming, but it was a huge classroom. And the kids came in there, they were able to come, they didn't even go into the main room where the whole dance and the music and the lights were off. They came straight to our room, but they enjoyed it and the parents enjoyed it because they were able to actually come to a school event. They were still there, but they were in a comfortable environment for their kids. Another thing that, we've done in the past is trunk or treats, where they're outside, they're not confined to a space where it's a little bit more free flowing. That's another great thing as well. The other thing is we do something called the Safe Halloween, where our high school clubs in the high school, in each classroom set up, like pretend like that's their house. So you're going to each door and you get a little candy in your bucket. And I know for myself, for my youngest, that worked out really great because he has sensory issues and he also doesn't like to walk. I love him to death, but he will tell you he's not an outdoors kid. So it was a brief walk. We hit the 20 classrooms. He got his candy and we called it a day. And and those are things that, you want to have a discussion and see what works for your community. But those are just some of the ideas for Halloween.
If any other questions in the chat? Anybody wishes to ask Tina anything else? Okay. One additional question. Can SEPTA hold an event but advertise that certain members are excluded?
No.
Okay.
Please don't. Remember, our goal here is to be inclusive. Not just only as a SEPTA, but as a PT in general, we want to include everybody. Listen, sometimes, it, it it doesn't work out, but we shouldn't start off by excluding anybody because it doesn't set a good example for what we are. We want to include everybody. Um, you know, um, I have to bring my husband to all these events. So, I would love to leave him home sometimes, but I'm bringing him with me. But you know what? We don't want to send that message. That's not what SEPTA is about. That's not what PT is about.
And should SEPTA encourage Board of Education members to be part of the organization? Can they do presentations to the
Um,
board? Yes.
Yeah, as long as it fits, whatever your theme or your purpose is. If it's them, you don't want, again, just like with the political official, you don't want it about them campaigning for themselves. You want them to be addressing a particular issue to make sure a topic. And of course, invite the Board of Ed. I sent to my local legislators, in our district to join SEPTA. I sent them an email. I said, how about joining? And I'd say, put your money where your mouth is. You want to be a part of our community? Show me. So I send it to our elected officials to join SEPTA.
You get much encouragement back?
I got two. I got two. I have to tell you, Jackie, I got two back. So I was like, yes, I wanted to frame it too.
That's a good idea, though. I would definitely say encouraging the Board of Education members even to be a part of one of your events is a great way for them to see you're part of the district and they can see what's going
Absolutely.
on. So that's important. Another question came up about outreach to homeschooled families.
Okay.
And, or is it limited just to those attending schools?
No, I definitely reach out. That is, I think I put it on one of the other slides. Definitely reach out to your homeschool families. They should be a part. They should be a part of the conversation. Your district should have a list of who's homeschooled and you could provide them with the letter so they could send it out. They're not going to share that information with you because it's a privacy issue, but give them a letter saying, we would love to see you at our meetings. You're part of our community. You live in our community. We want you a part of it. We want you to know that there's a support system in place for you and there's a place for you to be, that we want you to belong here with us.
No, that's great information. And I wouldn't have even thought of that too. Well, I think that's about it on the chat. Can parent support groups restrict district administration from attending in order to, I see, in order to foster an open, safe discourse? That's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question. So it depends on the situation. Like I said, I tend to see that most district personnel won't attend a parent support group, knowing that it's a parent support group because it's uncomfortable for them. But you know what? You don't want to exclude them either, but maybe you could have two different support groups, have one that, is just kind of open to everybody and have something called more of a parent to parent chit chat, where it's parent to parent support group. But I wouldn't say, I hate excluding anybody. But at the same time, I can understand where you want to have that personal discussion where, you know what, sometimes you just need to vent. You might not mean anything by it. I know that sometimes I just need to blow off steam. I sit in my car a lot and I bang my head against the steering wheel about 20 times and then I just scream. So we're all allowed to have that moment. And sometimes when we have somebody else that knows what we're going through, it makes us feel a little bit better and makes us feel less lonely. So I would, when we did it, I had a frank discussion with our pupil personnel director. I said, listen, we want to have a parent to parent support group. It's not that I want to exclude you, but we want this to be more of where it's parent to parent, where it's a support, and family to family, or whoever needs that support. And again, it's not a district bashing thing. It's just a parent that's just frustrated. Sometimes I know when I went to these parent support groups, I see a lot of spouses, they're frustrated because there's so much stress going on and they just need to find somebody that understands the problems and the situations they're going through. And it's not something that they want to share with somebody that's a teacher or somebody that, you have kind of a professional relationship with. So sometimes just have an honest discussion with your director or your admin and say, listen, we want to do this parent to parent support group. It's not that we want to exclude you, but we think our parents would be more comfortable if it was just more of a parent to parent discussion.
Okay, let me just check one more time. And I just wanted to remind everybody that this is being recorded and you can find it located on the New York State website under the leadership tab. We have all of our webinars from the past several years, as well as our events recorded there. And the slide deck also will be available. And Tina's information again. Want to say your email, Tina, one more time?
Yep, it's special education at newyorkstatepta.org. And again, you'll also come see us at convention. You'll see me, Jackie, and Mary there too. So come say hello.
Okay, thank you so much, Tina, for all the great information. Hopefully you gave a lot of people a lot of things to think about and good ideas for all of our SEPTA parents out there, as well as our other PTAs to work with SEPTA. It's very important that you work together. Thank you, everyone. Our next webinar will be November 2nd on programs, and we hope you'll join us. And as I mentioned before, this will be available on the New York State website within the next couple of days if you want to go back over and look over anything else. Okay, have a great evening.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Thanks again.